3 in the morning. The city sleeps beneath a blanket of darkness, but you're awake. Your eyes fixed on the ceiling, tracing invisible patterns in the shadows. There's a weight in your chest, not sharp like pain, but dull, persistent, hollow. It's a feeling without a name, an emptiness that doesn't announce itself loudly, but sits there quietly, waiting. You've tried to ignore it, distract yourself, fill the void with work, with noise, with people. But here, in the silence of 3 a.m., it returns. Always returns. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who explored the deepest caverns of the human psyche, knew this feeling intimately. He called it the confrontation with something larger than ourselves, something we've been running from. But here's the question that changes everything. Is this emptiness a sign of depression? A chemical imbalance that needs treatment? Or is it something far more profound, a call from your soul to become who you were always meant to be? Let's step into an ordinary morning. Rain streaks down the kitchen window. The coffee maker gurgles, releasing steam into the cold air. You stand there, mug in hand, staring at nothing in particular. Your reflection in the microwave door shows someone you barely recognize. When did the light in your eyes dim? The day stretches ahead, like a desert, meetings, obligations, small talk, forced smiles. You've perfected the art of functioning, of appearing normal. Your colleagues see someone competent, your family sees someone stable. But inside, there's this gnawing sense that you're living someone else's life. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to fit into society's expectations. We become so skilled at wearing it that we forget there's a face underneath. And that face, your true face, is screaming to be seen. This is where most people make a critical mistake. They feel this emptiness and immediately pathologize it. They Google symptoms: persistent sadness, loss of interest, fatigue, difficulty concentrating. The checklist matches. The diagnosis seems clear: depression. And yes, clinical depression is real, serious, and often requires professional intervention. Jung himself never dismissed the biological aspects of mental suffering, but he discovered something crucial in his practice, something that would revolutionize how we understand the human psyche. Many of his patients who appeared depressed were actually experiencing something entirely different. They weren't sick, they were transforming. Their souls were initiating a process Jung called individuation, the journey towards psychological wholeness, toward becoming your authentic self rather than the collection of roles and expectations you've accumulated. Picture Zurich in the early 1900s, Jung's office on Sierstrasse, overlooking the lake. A patient sits across from him, describing symptoms that sound textbook: can't sleep, can't eat, can't find joy in anything anymore. But Jung listens differently. He doesn't just hear symptoms. He hears story. He hears meaning trying to emerge. The patient mentions dreams, vivid, recurring, unsettling. Dreams of descending into dark caves, of encountering strange figures, of searching for something lost. Another therapist might prescribe rest, perhaps medication. Jung leans forward. "Tell me more about these dreams," he says. Because Jung understood that the psyche speaks in symbols, and what looks like breakdown might actually be breakthrough. The emptiness isn't random, it's purposeful. It's your unconscious mind saying, "We need to talk, and we need to talk now." The confusion between depression and individuation is understandable because they share surface similarities. Both involve withdrawal from normal life. Both create feelings of isolation. Both can make you question everything you once believed. The difference lies in the quality of the emptiness. Depression often feels like numbness, like nothing matters and nothing ever will. Individuation feels like hunger, like there's something you're supposed to find but don't know where to look. Depression says everything is meaningless. Individuation says your current meaning isn't enough. Depression closes doors. Individuation burns them down, so you're forced to find new exits. Jung observed that people in individuation often become deeply interested in questions they'd never considered before. What is the purpose of my life? Who am I beyond my job title? My relationships? My achievements? These aren't symptoms of illness. They're signs of awakening. Now we come to what Jung considered the most crucial concept in understanding the psyche, the shadow. Imagine everything about yourself you've rejected, denied, or hidden, not just from others but from yourself. The anger you were told was unacceptable, the creativity you sacrificed for practicality, the wildness you tamed to be taken seriously, the vulnerability you armored over to avoid being hurt. All of these rejected parts don't disappear. They gather in what Jung called the shadow, the dark side of your personality that you refuse to acknowledge. And here's what most people don't realize. The emptiness you feel, that hollow ache in your chest, is often the shadow knocking on the door. It's everything you've been trying not to be, demanding integration. The shadow doesn't knock politely forever. Eventually, it kicks the door down. Let me paint you a scene. A successful lawyer, 43 years old, sits on her bathroom floor at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. She's crying, but she doesn't know why. Her career is thriving, her family is healthy. From the outside, her life is enviable. But inside, she feels like she's suffocating. She took the afternoon off, told her assistant she was sick, and now she's here, mascara streaking down her face, wondering if she's losing her mind. This is the shadow's arrival. This is the moment when all the unlived parts of her life, the painting she gave up, the spontaneity she traded for security, the authentic relationships she sacrificed for professional networking, come flooding back. Jung would say this isn't breakdown. This is the psyche's immune system activating, trying to restore balance. The emptiness is the space being cleared for something new to emerge. You've made it this far into this journey, and I want to pause here to thank you. In a world of endless scrolling, of quick fixes and shallow engagement, you're still here, sitting with uncomfortable questions about emptiness and transformation. That says something profound about you. It says you're not content with easy answers. It says you sense there's something more. And I want you to know, the best is yet to come. What we've explored so far is just the entrance to the cave. Now we're going deeper, into the territory where real transformation happens. Stay with me. What comes next might change how you see your entire life. Jung borrowed a concept from Christian mysticism that perfectly describes what happens in the depths of individuation, the dark night of the soul. St. John of the Cross wrote about it in the 16th century, a period of spiritual desolation where everything you believed, everything that gave you comfort, falls away. You're left in absolute darkness, stripped of certainty. Jung recognized this same pattern in psychological development. There comes a point in individuation where you must let go of your old identity completely. Not modify it, not improve it, let it die. This is terrifying because we are deeply attached to who we think we are. Even if that identity makes us miserable, it's familiar, it's safe. The dark night asks you to step into complete uncertainty, to not know who you are, to sit in the void and trust that something will emerge. What does this look like in real life? It's the moment you realize you don't believe in the religion you were raised in anymore, and suddenly the entire framework of meaning collapses. It's the day you understand your marriage is over, not because of one big betrayal, but because you've both been strangers for years. It's when you achieve the goal you spent decades pursuing, the promotion, the house, the recognition, and feel absolutely nothing. They shatter the ground you've been standing on. And in that shattering, Jung says, is the possibility of something authentic being built. But first, you have to endure the rubble. You have to sit in the ruins of who you used to be. The emptiness here isn't depression, though it might look like it. It's the fertile void, the creative darkness where new life gestates. So what do you do during this time? How do you navigate the dark night without losing yourself completely? Jung's answer might surprise you. You don't fight it. You don't try to quickly fill the emptiness with new distractions. You descend into it. You sit with it. You let it teach you. He encouraged his patients to engage with their unconscious through what he called active imagination, a practice of dialoguing with the images, symbols, and figures that appear in dreams and fantasies. You might sit quietly and ask the emptiness, "What are you trying to tell me?" And then listen, not with your rational mind trying to figure it out, but with deeper attention. Jung found that when people stopped resisting the darkness and started exploring it, remarkable things happened. The emptiness began to speak, and what it said was often exactly what they needed to hear. There's a dream Jung recorded from one of his patients during this phase. The patient dreamed of walking through a burned forest. Everything was ash and charcoal. No color, no life, just devastation. But as he walked deeper into this wasteland, he noticed something. Tiny green shoots pushing up through the ash. Life returning. Not the same forest that burned, but something new. When the patient woke, he understood. His old life had to burn completely for something authentic to grow. The emptiness wasn't the end of the story. It was the middle, the part where transformation actually happens, even though it feels like dying. Jung knew that our culture's biggest mistake is trying to skip this part. We want the transformation without the void. We want rebirth without death. But nature doesn't work that way. Neither does the psyche. Now let's talk about what Jung called the self, capital S. This isn't the ego, the small self you identify with in daily life. The self is the totality of who you are, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, integrated into wholeness. Most people live their entire lives without ever encountering the self. They live from the ego, from the persona, from what they think they should be. Individuation is the process of shifting the center of your identity from ego to self. And here's what's crucial. You can't do this through willpower or self-improvement. You can't think your way to the self. You have to dissolve into the emptiness first. You have to let go of control. The self emerges when the ego finally stops trying to run the show. It's paradoxical. You find yourself by losing yourself. Picture dawn after the longest night of your life. You haven't slept. You've cried until there were no tears left. You've questioned everything. And then, as the first light touches the window, something shifts. Not dramatically, not like the movies. Just a subtle sense that you've survived something, that you're still here. You look in the mirror and for the first time in months, maybe years, you don't immediately look away. There's something different in your eyes. Not happiness exactly. Something deeper. Recognition. You're looking at yourself. Your actual self. Perhaps for the first time. The mask has cracked so thoroughly that you can't put it back on, even if you wanted to. And strangely, you don't want to. The emptiness is still there, but it feels different now. Less like a wound and more like space. Room to breathe. Room to become. This is where Jung's concept of individuation reaches its profound conclusion. You don't fill the emptiness with your old identity or with new distractions. You learn to live from the emptiness, to make it your home. Because the emptiness isn't actually empty. It's full of potential, full of your unlived life, full of the person you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and expectation. The people in Jung's practice who successfully navigated this journey didn't become perfect. They became real. They stopped pretending. They stopped performing. They started making choices based on inner truth rather than external approval. Some changed careers, some changed relationships, some stayed exactly where they were but inhabited their lives completely differently. The external circumstances mattered less than the internal shift. But Jung also warned about something crucial. Individuation isn't comfortable. It doesn't lead to a life of ease and perpetual happiness. In fact, it often makes life harder in some ways because you can no longer hide behind illusions. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you've learned about yourself. The shadow, once integrated, becomes part of your conscious awareness. You recognize your capacity for anger, for selfishness, for cruelty, not to indulge these things, but to no longer be blindsided by them. You become more human, more whole, more complicated. And this complexity, Jung believed, is where real wisdom lives. Not in the sanitized version of yourself you present to the world, but in the full, contradictory, messy totality of who you actually are. There's a moment Jung described that often happens late in the individuation process. People suddenly understand that the emptiness they feared for so long was actually the most honest thing about their lives. It was their psyche telling the truth, that they'd been living inauthentically, that they'd been betraying their own nature, that something fundamental needed to change. The emptiness was a gift, though it didn't feel like one at the time. It was the psyche's way of saying, "Stop. This path you're on leads nowhere you actually want to go. Turn around. Go deeper. Find what's real." And when people finally listen to this message, when they stop treating the emptiness as an enemy and start treating it as a teacher, everything changes. Not in the sense that life becomes problem-free, but in the sense that they finally feel present in their own existence. So here we are, near the end of this exploration, and I want to bring it back to you, to that 3 a.m. wakefulness, that hollow feeling in your chest, that sense that something is profoundly wrong or profoundly right, or both at once. Jung spent his entire career studying this exact experience, and his conclusion, refined over decades of clinical work and personal struggle, was this: trust the emptiness. Not blindly. If you're experiencing severe depression, please seek professional help. But if what you're feeling is this specific existential hunger, this sense that your soul is trying to tell you something, then listen. Don't medicate it away. Don't distract yourself from it. Don't fill it prematurely with new goals and new distractions. Sit with it. Dialogue with it. Let it reshape you. Because on the other side of this emptiness, Jung promises, is a version of yourself that you've never met but have always been. Individuation, Jung said, is not a journey for everyone. It requires courage to face what you find in the depths of your own psyche. It requires honesty to admit that the life you've built might not be the life your soul wants to live. It requires humility to accept that you don't have all the answers, that you're not in complete control, that there are forces within you wiser than your conscious mind. But for those who take this journey, who embrace the emptiness rather than flee from it, the reward is immeasurable. It's not happiness in the conventional sense. It's something Jung considered far more valuable. A life lived in alignment with your true nature. A life where you're no longer performing for an invisible audience, no longer chasing someone else's definition of success, no longer betraying who you actually are for the comfort of fitting in. That's what emerges from the void. That's what the emptiness was protecting all along. The sun rises fully now. The darkness that seemed infinite a few hours ago has given way to morning light. You're still you, but somehow different. The emptiness hasn't disappeared completely. Jung said it never does. But you've learned to recognize it not as depression, not as failure, not as something wrong with you, but as the voice of your deeper self calling you home, calling you to live truthfully, calling you to integrate all the scattered pieces of who you are into something whole. This is individuation. This is the journey Jung mapped for us. not a cure for emptiness, but a transformation of it. From void to womb, from ending to beginning, from death to rebirth. And it all starts with the courage to ask, what if this emptiness isn't my enemy? What if it's the wisest thing about me?